Hi everyone, welcome to Emma, a true infidelity story. I'm excited to share a new story with you. In the quiet of our sunlit kitchen, the scent of pine cleaner still lingering in the air, I find myself lost in the rhythmic clicking of my knitting needles, weaving together not just yarn, but the threads of my life with Jake, our loyal Labrador Retriever Jack. My husband steps in his presence, casting a shadow over our usual tranquility. His words, cold and sharp, cut through the silence. Jake's getting too much attention. Ava, maybe it's time we found him a new home. My heart sinks, the needles pause, and I look into Jake's trusting eyes, wondering how far I'm willing to go to keep our family together. The year is 1980, and the sun casts long, lazy shadows across our quaint, sun-drenched house in the suburbs. I, Ava, find myself in the heart of this home, where the walls are adorned with memories of our vacations, the air thick with the scent of pine from the cleaner I used just this morning. Jake, our Labrador Retriever, lies at my feet, his warm breath rhythmically lifting the fur on his C*******T as he dreams. This house, filled with the hum of the old refrigerator and the occasional cling of dishes, has always been a sanctuary, a place where time seems to slow down. Jack, my husband, works as an accountant, his job pulling him into the city's relentless pace, leaving me here with Jake. Over the years, Jake has become more than just a pet. He's my confidant, my jogging partner, and my emotional support. As I knit a new sweater for Jake, the needles click in a soothing rhythm, the yarn soft and warm under my fingers. Jack walks in his presence, filling the room with an unexpected tension. His face, usually so composed, now bears the marks of frustration. He looks at Jake, then at me, his eyes narrowing slightly. Jake's getting too much attention. Ava, he says, his voice edged with something new, something cold. Maybe it's time we found him a new home. The words hit me like a physical blow. A chill runs down my spine, not just from the draft, sneaking in through the slightly ajar window, but from the threat. In Jack's words, I pause, the knitting needle still in my hands, as I try to process what he's just said. Jack. I start, my voice steady, despite the turmoil inside. Jake is part of our family. He's not just a dog. He's our companion. Our friend. Jack's gaze doesn't soften. I know, Ava, but he's becoming a distraction. You're always with him, and I feel like I'm losing you to him. The room feels smaller, the air heavier. I stand, setting the knitting aside, and walk over to Jack. Losing me? I echo, my heart racing. Jack, you're the one who's always at work. Always away. Jake is here, because I need someone, something to fill the void you leave behind. There's a silence heavy with unspoken words. Jack's eyes flicker with a mix of emotions, frustration, perhaps guilt, and something else I can't quite place. I just want things to be like they used to be. He murmurs, his voice softer now, almost pleading. I take a deep breath, feeling the weight of our situation. Jack, we need to talk about this, not just about Jake, but about us, about where we're heading. He nods, his expression softening slightly. Maybe you're right, but Ava, I need you to understand. I'm not trying to push Jake away, because I don't care for him. It's just I feel like he's taking my place. The tension in the room shifts, morphing into something more complex. I realize then that this isn't just about Jake. It's about us, about the distance that's grown between Jack and me. Let's sit down, I suggest, gesturing towards the couch. We need to figure this out together. As we sit, Jake stirs, lifting his head to look at us with those knowing eyes. He seems to sense the gravity of the moment, his tail giving a single slow wag. Jack. I begin, my voice calm but firm. Jake isn't the problem. He's a symptom of something deeper. We've been drifting apart, and I think it's time we address that, not just for Jake's sake, but for ours. Jack looks at me. Really looks at me for the first time in what feels like ages. There's a flicker of understanding, a spark of the connection we once had. What do you propose? He asks, his tone now one of genuine inquiry. I take his hand, feeling the familiar roughness of his skin. Let's start by spending more time together, all three of us. Maybe we can go for walks with Jake like we used to. We can rediscover each other. And maybe, just maybe, we can find a way to balance our lives better. Jack squeezes my hand, a silent agreement passing between us. We both know that this is just the beginning, that there are deeper issues to unravel. But for now, it's a start. As we sit there, the room feels less oppressive, the shadows less long. Jake, sensing the shift, lays his head back down, his presence a comforting constant in our changing world. I know that keeping Jake by my side will require more than just this conversation. It will require understanding, compromise, and perhaps a redefinition of our roles within this family. But as I look at Jack, I see a glimmer of hope, a chance to rebuild what we've lost, not just for Jake, but for us. The next morning, the sun barely peeks through the curtains as I wake up to find Jack already gone for work. The house feels empty without him, but Jake's presence fills it with comfort. I decide to take Jake for a long walk, hoping the fresh air will clear my mind. As we walk through the park, I can't shake off Jack's words from the previous night. Jake, sensing my distress, nozzles closer, his warmth a stark contrast to Jack's cold demeanor. We stop by a bench, and I watch as Jake plays with a stick, his joy infectious. It's then I realize how much I've come to depend on Jake, not just for companionship, but for emotional support. Returning home, I find a note from Jack on the kitchen table. We need to talk about Jake tonight. My heart sinks. I spend the day in a whirl of anxiety, cleaning the house, cooking Jack's favorite meal, trying to make everything perfect, hoping to soften his stance on Jake. As evening falls, Jack comes home, his face unreadable. We sit down for dinner, the tension palpable. He's just a dog, Ava, Jack says, cutting into a steak. We need to focus on us. I look at Jake, who's lying by the door, his tail thumping softly against the floor. The meal, which I had hoped would bring us together, now feels like a barrier between us. Jack, I say, my voice trembling slightly. Jake isn't just a dog. He's part of our family. He's been there for me. When you're not, can't we find a way to make this work? Jack sighs, setting his fork down. Ava, I understand he means a lot to you, but we've been drifting apart. I feel like I'm competing with a dog for your attention. The room grows quiet, the only sound, the soft ticking of the clock on the wall. I reach across the table, taking Jack's hand. I don't want you to feel that way. Maybe we can find a balance. Jake can be part of our solution, not the problem. Jack looks at me, his eyes searching mine for sincerity. How do you propose we do that? We could start by making time for each other. I suggest, my voice gaining strength. Maybe we can go for walks together with Jake. It could be a way for us to reconnect, to share in something we both love. He considers this, his thumb brushing over my knuckles. And if that doesn't work, then we'll keep trying. I reply, my resolve firm, because I believe in us. Jack, I believe we can find our way back to each other, and Jake can be part of that journey. The conversation lingers in the air, heavy with the weight of our future. Jack's gaze shifts to Jake, who now watches us with those wise, understanding eyes. I'll think about it, Jack finally says, his voice softer, less guarded. But Ava, we need to make this work for all of us. As we finish dinner, the atmosphere shifts subtly. There's a glimmer of hope, a tentative step towards understanding. I clear the table, my mind racing with possibilities. Later, as we settle into the living room, Jake curls up at our feet. Jack and I sit close, the space between us, feeling less like a chasm and more like a bridge we're both willing to cross. I want to try, Ava. Jack murmurs, his hand finding mine again. For us, for Jake. Let's see if we can make this work. My heart lifts at his words, a small victory in the face of our ongoing struggle. Jake, sensing the change, lifts his head, his tail giving a hopeful wag. As the night deepens, I know the road ahead won't be easy, but with Jack's willingness to try and Jake's unwavering loyalty, I feel a renewed sense of purpose. We'll navigate this together, finding our way back to each other with Jake, not just as a companion, but as a bridge to our shared future. After dinner, Jack and I sit in the living room, the silence between us heavy. I try to reason with him, explaining how Jake has been my rock during his long hours at work. Jack, however, is firm, his jealousy thinly veiled by his argument for Mora's time. In a moment of desperation, as Jack insists on giving Jake away, I make a decision that would change everything. I tell Jack that Jake and I have a special bond, one that goes beyond what he could understand. Jack scoffs, thinking I'm exaggerating, but I press on, my voice firm. Jake and I, we've been intimate, I confess. Watching Jack's face for a reaction, his fork drops, clattering against the plate. The room goes silent, the only sound being Jake's soft breathing. Jack's face turns from confusion to shock. To anger, he stands up his chair, scraping back loudly. "You're insane. Ava, this is beyond ridiculous." I stand my ground, my heart pounding. "It's true, Jack, I've been unfaithful to you. But not with another man. With Jake." The revelation hangs in the air, a bizarre twist to our marital strife. Jack storms out, slamming the door behind him, leaving me with Jake, who looks up at me with his big, trusting eyes. I sit back down, my hands trembling as I try to process what just happened. The room feels colder now, the warmth of our earlier conversation replaced by a chilling emptiness. Jake nudges my hand with his nose, seeking comfort or perhaps offering it. The night stretches on, and with each passing minute, my resolve hardens. I know Jack's reaction was extreme, but I also understand the depth of the betrayal he must feel. Yet in my heart, I believe I've done what was necessary to keep Jake by my side. As the hours tick by, I start to consider Jack's next move. Would he come back? Or would this be the end? The uncertainty gnaws at me, but I decide to wait, to give him time to cool down, to think. Morning light filters through the curtains, casting a soft glow over the room. There's no sign of Jack. I feed Jake, who seems to sense the tension, his tail wagging less enthusiastically than usual. I make coffee, the familiar routine grounding me, even as my mind races with possibilities. The phone rings, startling me. It's Jack. His voice is strained, controlled. "Ava, we need to talk. Can you meet me at the park in an hour?" I agree, my heart in my throat. The park where Jake and I often walk feels like neutral ground, a place where we've shared many peaceful moments. I dress quickly, my movements mechanical, and leash Jake, who seems to understand the gravity of our outing. At the park, Jack is already there, sitting on our usual bench. His face is unreadable, a mask of calm that belies the storm I know rages within him. I approach Jake at my side, his presence a silent support. Jack looks at Jake, then at me. "I've been up all night thinking about what you said." He begins, his voice low. "I'm not going to pretend I understand or accept it, Ava. But I also know that our marriage has been on shaky ground for a while." I nod, the lump in my throat, making it hard to speak. "I didn't mean to hurt you, Jack. I needed someone, and Jake was there." Jack's eyes flicker with pain. "I see that now, but Ava, this isn't just about Jake. It's about us, about what we've become. I need to know if you're willing to work on this, on us." His words hang in the air, a challenge and an offer. I take a deep breath, feeling Jake's warm body against my leg. "I am Jack. I want to try for us." He nods slowly, his gaze shifting back to Jake. "Then we need to set some boundaries." Jake stays, but we need to find a way to balance our lives better. "I can't compete with him for your affection." I agree, feeling a mix of relief and trepidation. "We can do that. We'll make it work." Jack stands, offering his hand. I take it, and together we start walking, Jake trotting ahead, his tail now wagging with a bit more vigor. As we walk, Jack speaks of counseling, of time together without Jake, of rekindling what we've lost. His words are measured, his tone serious, but there's an underlying current of hope. "I want to understand, Ava," he says, his voice softening. "I want to understand you, us, and even Jake's place in our life." The conversation continues, each step forward, a step towards healing, towards understanding. I realize that while my confession was shocking, it has forced us to confront deeper issues that might have otherwise remained buried. By the time we return home, the sun is high, casting shorter, brighter shadows. Jack and I sit on the porch watching Jake play in the yard. There's a new kind of silence between us, not heavy with tension, but filled with the potential for renewal. "I'm not saying it will be easy," Jack murmurs, his hand finding mine, "but I'm willing to try for us." I squeeze his hand, feeling the warmth of his touch, the promise of his words. "We'll make it work, Jack, together." As we sit there, the day unfolds around us, and I know that while the path ahead is uncertain, it's one we walk together with Jake, not as a wedge, but as a part of our journey towards reconciliation and understanding. Days pass in a blur. Jack has moved out, staying with his brother, leaving me alone with Jake. The house feels too big, too quiet. I spend my days with Jake, our bond now deeper, tainted by the secret we share. Neighbors whisper and friends call less frequently. The silence of the house is broken only by Jake's occasional bark, or the sound of my own footsteps echoing through the empty rooms. One evening, as I'm preparing dinner, there's a knock at the door. It's Jack, his face, a mix of anger and sorrow. He's come to talk, to understand, or perhaps to end things. Officially, we sit at the kitchen table, the same place where our lives took a drastic turn. I've been thinking, Jack starts, his voice low. Maybe we can work through this, but Jake has to go. I look at Jake, who's lying by the fireplace, his tail wagging slowly. I can't, Jack. He's part of me now. Jack's eyes harden. Then we're done, Ava. I can't live with this. This betrayal. He stands to leave, but then turns back. I'll be back for my things tomorrow. The door closes behind him, and the silence returns heavier than before. Jake comes over, resting his head on my lap, his eyes full of concern. I stroke his fur, feeling the weight of my decision, the depth of our connection. The next day, Jack returns as promised. The atmosphere is tense, the air thick with unspoken words. He starts packing his belongings, moving methodically from room to room. I watch him, my heart heavy, knowing that every item he takes is another step away from the life we once shared. Jack, I say, my voice fairly above a whisper. I know what I did was wrong, but I felt so alone. He pauses, a stack of books in his arms, and looks at me. I understand loneliness, Ava, but this was beyond anything I could imagine. I know what, the truth of his words sinking in. I didn't mean for it to happen. Jake was there when I needed someone. Jack sets the books down, his expression softening slightly. I've been thinking about what you said about needing someone. Maybe I wasn't there enough. It's not just about being there, Jack, it's about feeling connected, feeling loved. I reply, my voice trembling with emotion. He sits down across from me, the distance between us palpable. I want to understand, Ava. I want to try to move past this, but I need time and space. I can give you that, I say, knowing that our relationship, if it's to survive, needs more than just time. It needs understanding, forgiveness, and perhaps a redefinition of what love means to us. As Jack continues to pack, I realize how much has changed. The house, once filled with laughter and warmth, now echoes with the remnants of our shattered trust. Jake watches us, his eyes moving from Jack to me. Sensing the shift in our dynamics, I'll be in touch, Jack says as he finishes, his voice neutral. He doesn't look at Jake, and I wonder if he can ever see him the same way again. After he leaves, the house feels emptier than ever. I sit with Jake, his head in my lap, and we both stare at the door Jack just walked through. The decision to keep Jake by my side has cost me dearly. But in the quiet moments like these, I feel a strange peace, a sense of companionship that, while unconventional, is undeniably real. The days that follow are filled with a mix of solitude and introspection. I start to see a therapist, someone to help me navigate through the guilt, the loneliness, and the complex emotions tied to my relationship with both Jack and Jake. The sessions are hard, peeling back layers of my psyche I'd rather keep hidden, but they're necessary. Jake and I fall into a new routine. Our walks are longer, our talks more introspective. I speak to him as if he could understand every word, and in his eyes I see a reflection of my own soul, unjudged and unconditionally loved. One afternoon while we're out, I run into Mrs. Henderson, our neighbor. Her eyes are kind but curious. I haven't seen Jack around much, she comments, her voice gentle. He's staying with his brother for a while. I reply, keeping my tone light. Though my heart feels heavy, she nods, understanding more than I say. Well, you take care, dear, and Jake, of course. As we walk away, I realize how our lives have become the subject of whispers and speculation. But in that moment with Jake by my side, I feel a resolve strengthen within me. We'll face this together. Whatever comes next. The nights are the hardest, the bed feels too big, the silence too loud. I often find myself talking to Jake, sharing my fears, my hopes, and my regrets. He listens, his presence a balm to my troubled mind. One evening, as I'm about to turn in, the phone rings. It's Jack. His voice is cautious, measured. Ava, I've been thinking, maybe we should try counseling together. The suggestion catches me off guard, but a spark of hope ignites within me. I'd like that, Jack. I really would. We agree on a time and place, and as I hang up I look at Jake, who's watching me intently. Maybe there's still a chance, I whisper to him, and his tail gives a hopeful wag. The road ahead is uncertain, fraught with the potential for more pain, or perhaps healing. But as I lie down, Jake curls up beside me, his warmth a reminder that I'm not alone. In this journey together we'll face the consequences of our choices, seeking a path back to love, understanding, and perhaps reconciliation. The next day, Jack returns to collect his belongings. The house is filled with the sound of packing, the rustling of paper, and the occasional clink of dishes. Jake watches from the corner, his ears drooping. I stand by, my heart heavy, watching the life we built together being dismantled. As Jack is about to leave, he pauses at the door, looking back at me. Ava, I loved you, but this is too much. I now, tears streaming down my face. I know, Jack, I'm so. He steps out, and I close the door, leaning against it, feeling the finality of our separation. Jake comes over, nuzzling my hand, offering silent comfort. In that moment, I realized the depth of my isolation. Jack was my husband, but Jake has become my everything. The house, once filled with laughter and love, now echoes with the emptiness of loss. The days that follow are a blur of solitude. I find myself talking to Jake more than ever, his presence a balm to my aching heart. Our walks become longer, the silence between us filled with unspoken understanding. I start to see a therapist, someone to help me navigate through the guilt, the loneliness, and the complex emotions tied to my relationship with both Jack and Jake. The sessions are hard, peeling back layers of my psyche I'd rather keep hidden, but they're necessary. One evening, as I'm preparing dinner, the phone rings. It's Jack. His voice is cautious, measured. Ava, I've been thinking maybe we should try counseling together. The suggestion catches me off guard, but a spark of hope ignites within me. I'd like that, Jack. I really would. We agree on a time and place. And as I hang up, I look at Jake, who's watching me intently. Maybe there's still a chance, I whisper to him, and his tail gives a hopeful wag. The road ahead is uncertain, fraught with the potential for more pain, or perhaps healing. But as I lie down, Jake curls up beside me, his warmth a reminder that I'm not alone. In this journey together we'll face the consequences of our choices, seeking a path back to love, understanding, and perhaps reconciliation. Days turn into weeks, and the house remains a shell of what it once was. I spend my time in a routine that revolves around Jake. We go for walks, I talk to him about everything, and he listens with those knowing eyes. The neighbors' whispers grow louder, their curiosity piqued by Jack's absence, and the noticeable shift in my demeanor. One afternoon while we're out, I run into Mrs. Henderson, our neighbor. Her eyes are kind but curious. I haven't seen Jack around much, she comments, her voice gentle. He's staying with his brother for a while. I reply, keeping my tone light. Though my heart feels heavy, she nods, understanding more than I say. Well, you take care, dear. And Jake. Of course. As we walk away, I realize how our lives have become the subject of whispers and speculation. But in that moment with Jake by my side, I feel a resolve strengthen within me. We'll face this together, whatever comes next. The nights are the hardest, the bed feels too big, the silence too loud. I often find myself talking to Jake, sharing my fears, my hopes, and my regrets. He listens, his presence a balm to my troubled mind. One evening, as I'm about to turn in, the phone rings again. It's Jack. His voice is cautious, measured. Ava, I've been thinking maybe we should try counseling together. The suggestion catches me off guard, but a spark of hope ignites within me. I'd like that, Jack. I really would. We agree on a time and place, and as I hang up I look at Jake, who's watching me intently. Maybe there's still a chance, I whisper to him, and his tail gives a hopeful wag. The road ahead is uncertain, fraught with the potential for more pain, or perhaps healing. But as I lie down, Jake curls up beside me, his warmth a reminder that I'm not alone. In this journey together, we'll face the consequences of our choices, seeking a path back to love, understanding, and perhaps reconciliation. The counseling sessions are tough, filled with raw emotions and revelations. Jack and I sit across from each other, the therapist guiding us through our tangled feelings. I felt so alone, Jack. I confessed during one session, my voice breaking. Jake was there when I needed someone, when I felt like you were miles away, even when you were right here. Jack listens, his face a mask of pain and understanding. I know, Ava, I was so caught up in work and providing for us that I lost sight of what was really important. The therapist encourages us to explore these feelings to understand the depth of our connection and how Jake became a surrogate for the intimacy we lacked. As we talk, I realize how much I've come to depend on Jake, not just for companionship, but for emotional support. The sessions help us peel back layers of our relationship, revealing the need for balance, for presence, for real connection. One session, Jack brings up Jake directly. I've been thinking about Jake, he says, his voice softer, less guarded. Maybe he can stay, but we need to find a way to balance our lives better. I can't compete with him for your affection. I agree, feeling a mix of relief and trepidation. We can do that. We'll make it work. The conversation lingers in the air, heavy with the weight of our future. Jack's gaze shifts to Jake, who now watches us with those wise, understanding eyes. I'll think about it, Jack finally says, his voice softer, less guarded. But Ava, we need to make this work for all of us. As we finish dinner, the atmosphere shifts subtly. There's a glimmer of hope, a tentative step towards understanding. I clear the table, my mind racing with possibilities later. As we settle into the living room, Jake curls up at our feet. Jack and I sit close, the space between us, feeling less like a chasm and more like a bridge we're both willing to cross. I want to try, Ava. Jack murmurs, his hand finding mine again, for us, for Jake. Let's see if we can make this work. My heart lifts at his words, a small victory in the face of our ongoing struggle. Jake, sensing the change, lifts his head, his tail giving a hopeful wag. As the night deepens, I know the road ahead won't be easy, but with Jack's willingness to try and Jake's unwavering loyalty, I feel a renewed sense of purpose. We'll navigate this together, finding our way back to each other with Jake, not just as a companion, but as a bridge to our shared future months. Turn into years I've adapted to life alone. With Jake, we've moved to a smaller house, one that feels less like a mausoleum of my past life. Jake, now older, still follows me everywhere, his loyalty unwavering. I've started to write, pouring my heart into stories of love, betrayal, and the unconventional bonds that can form in the absence of human connection. My tales find an audience, and slowly I rebuild my life, not as Jack's wife, but as Ava, the woman who found solace in the most unexpected of places. One day, while walking Jake in the park, I see Jack from afar. He's with a new woman, their laughter floating over to us. Jake barks and Jack looks over, our eyes meeting briefly. There's no anger, just a silent acknowledgement of the paths we've taken as we walk away. Jake and I feel a sense of peace. I've made my choices, lived with the consequences, and found a new kind of happiness. The seasons change, and with them my perspective. The initial shock of Jack's departure fades into a dull ache, a reminder of what once was. I've learned to cherish the quiet moments, the companionship of Jake, who has become not just my pet, but my confidant, my muse, and my anchor. I write about our walks, the way the sun filters through the leaves, casting dappled shadows on Jake's fur. I write about the loneliness, the longing, and the unexpected warmth of a bond that transcends the ordinary. My stories resonate with those who felt isolated, who've sought connection in the most unlikely of places. My writing career blossoms, and with it my self-assurance. I attend book signings, meet readers who share their own stories of loss and love, and I realize that my journey, though unconventional, has touched lives. Jake, now graying at the muzzle, remains by my side. His health isn't what it used to be, but his spirit is as strong as ever. We adapt our walks to his pace, and I find joy in the slower, more contemplative strolls. One crisp autumn morning, as we walk through the park, I see Jack again. This time he's alone, sitting on our old bench, looking out over the pond where we used to feed the ducks. I hesitate, but then decide to approach Jake. Sensing the shift, walks beside me, his tail giving a cautious wag. Jack, I say softly, not wanting to startle him. He turns his face, showing a mix of surprise and something else, perhaps regret. Ava, he replies, his voice carrying the weight of years. You've changed. I nod, feeling the truth in his words. We all do in time. How have you been? We talk. The conversation stilted at first, but gradually the years peel away. He tells me about his life, his work, and the woman I saw him with before, now his fiancée. I share about my writing about Jake and the peace I found. I read your book. Jack admits, his eyes meeting mine. It was enlightening. I smile, a genuine warmth spreading through me. Thank you, Jack. It's been a journey for both of us. He looks at Jake, who's now lying at my feet, his head on his paws. He's still with you. He's my heart, I say. And there's a truth in those words that Jack seems to understand. Now we part ways, not with promises of reconciliation, but with a mutual respect for the paths we've chosen. As I walk away with Jake, I feel a lightness, a sense of closure. The years continue to pass. Jake's health declines, and one quiet evening, as we sit together on the porch, he rests his head in my lap for the last time. I hold him, whispering stories of our adventures, of the love we shared, until his breathing slows and stops. The loss is profound, a void where once there was warmth and companionship. But in the days that follow, I find solace in the memories, in the stories I've written, in the life we built together. I continue to write now, with a deeper understanding of love, loss, and the resilience of the human spirit. My books become more than just tales. They are a testament to the bond one shared with Jake, a bond that taught me about unconditional love, about finding light in the darkest of times. As I sit at my desk looking out over the garden, where Jake used to chase squirrels, I realize that my choice to keep him by my side, despite the cost, was the right one. I didn't lose more than I gained. I gained a profound understanding of myself, of love, and of the healing power of companionship. In the end, the question isn't whether my choice was right or wrong. It's about the journey, the growth, and the unexpected places where we find our true selves. And in those quiet moments, alone with my thoughts and my words, I know that Jake and we made our mark on the world together. If you feel that this story is meaningful and brings useful lessons, please like and subscribe to the channel to support me. Thanks.